Today is day 4 for the Come Follow Me study for this week, September 15th through the 21st. After much tribulation cometh the blessing. Doctrine and Covenants 102 through 105. Thursday, September 18th, 2025, Doctrine and Covenants 104, 11 through 53. Read Doctrine and Covenants 104, 11 through 18, looking for what each member of the united firm was to be given, and the Lord's purpose for doing so. The Lord provides for his saints in his own way. Doctrine and Covenants 104:11. It is wisdom in me, therefore a commandment I give unto you, that ye shall organize yourselves and appoint every man his steward. A steward is someone who manages the property or affairs of someone else. Because the Lord created the earth and everything on it, all things belong to him, the land, its resources, and his children who dwell on the earth. Since all things belong to the Lord, we are his stewards. Based on this principle, the Lord instructs that each member of the united firm be given an individual stewardship, which would be allotted from the properties managed by the united firm. In this way, the Lord made each member of the firm accountable for the management and use of the resources he entrusted to him. Similarly, the Lord will hold each of us accountable for our use of the earth's resources and the degree to which we fulfill the responsibilities he gives us. Elder Joseph B. Worthland said, "Each of you has an eternal calling from which no church officer has authority to release you. This is a calling given you by our Heavenly Father himself. In this eternal calling, as with all other callings, you have a stewardship, and it is required of the Lord at the hand of every steward to render an account of his stewardship, both in time and in eternity. This most important stewardship is the glorious responsibility your Father in heaven has given you to watch over and care for your own soul. At some future day, you and I will each hear the voice of the Lord calling us forward to render an account of our mortal stewardship. This accounting will occur when we are called upon to stand before the Lord at the great and judgment day. Each day on this earth is but a small part of eternity. The day of resurrection and final judgment will surely come for each one of us. Then our Father in heaven's great and noble heart will be saddened for those of his children who, because they chose evil, will be cast out, unworthy to return to his presence. But he will welcome with loving arms and with indescribable joy those who have chosen to be true to the truth. Righteous living, combined with the grace of the atonement, will qualify us to stand before him with clean hearts and clear consciences. Doctrine and Covenants 104:12. That every man may give an account unto me of the stewardship which is appointed unto him. You may want to give your children a few minutes to make a list of blessings God has given them, such as food, clothing, talents, faith, and a home. Encourage them to list as many as they can. Then you could read together Doctrine and Covenants 104:13 through 18, looking for answers to questions like these. Who is the true owner of all things? What does he want us to do with these things? You and your children could share experiences in which someone gave you something you needed. Doctrine and Covenants 104:13 through 14. For it is expedient that I, the Lord, should make every man accountable as a steward over earthly blessings, which I have made and prepared for my creatures. I, the Lord, stretched out the heavens and built the earth, my very handiwork, and all things therein are mine. Elder Gerald N. Lund said, God is responsible for our creation, not just the making of our own bodies, but the whole of creation, the heavens, the earth, and all that in them are. That simple fact alone should be basis enough for our unending gratitude. When a man creates something through his own labor, a work of art, a building, a piece of furniture, great music, we say that it is his. In other words, we recognize that he has claim upon it, that he has stewardship over it, that he has the right to do with it as he wishes. By that same principle, we should acknowledge that because all that we see and know comes from the labor of God's hands, it is his. Therefore, whatever we have, or take, or use, or enjoy, puts us automatically in his debt. In a revelation to the prophet Joseph Smith, the Lord clearly stated that this is indeed the case. For it is expedient that I, the Lord, should make every man accountable as a steward over earthly blessings, which I have made and prepared for my creatures. I, the Lord, stretched out the heavens and built the earth, my very handiwork, and all things therein are mine. Note the possessive phrases used in those verses, which I have made, my very handiwork. All things therein are mine. As the psalmist said, the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Think for a moment how that simple concept would alter people's thinking if they would really accept it. We clutch things to our bosom and say, "These are mine." Individuals rob, cheat, and steal, or they manipulate and maneuver so that they are able to claim things as their own. Figuratively, the rich sit on their velvet thrones, drinking from golden goblets, and ignore the desperate sufferings of the poor because they think that what they have received belongs solely to them. Nations go to war over lands that they did nothing to create. If we truly believed that God was the owner of all things, that man was only a user and a borrower, our approach to life would alter drastically. A classic illustration of that principle was the man Job. After facing devastating losses of family, property, and health, he stated simply, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Henry B. Eyring spoke of this natural human tendency to forget all that God has done for us. We so easily forget that we came into life with nothing. Whatever we get soon seems our natural right, not a gift, and we forget the giver. Then our gaze shifts from what we have been given to what we don't have yet. The remembrance urged upon us by King Benjamin can be ours. Remembrance is the seed of gratitude. As creator of all things, the Lord has given us stewardship over the earth. Though we may buy and rent from each other, ultimately all things belong to the Lord. Elder Spencer W. Kimball gave the following account of a discussion with a friend about property. He drove to a grassy knoll. The sun was retiring behind the distant hills. He surveyed his vast dominion. Pointing to the north, he asked, "Do you see that clump of trees yonder?" I could plainly discern them in the fading day. He pointed to the east. "Do you see the lake shimmering in the sunset?" It too was visible. "Now, the bluff that's on the south." We turned about to scan the distance. He identified barns, silos, the ranch house to the west. With a wide sweeping gesture, he boasted, "From the clump of trees to the lake, to the bluff, and to the ranch buildings and all between, all this is mine." And then I asked from whom he obtained it. The chain of title of his contract went back to land grants from governments. His attorney had assured him he had an unencumbered title. From whom did the government get it? I asked, what was paid for it? There came into my mind the bold statement of Paul, "For the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof." And then I asked, did title come from God, creator of the earth and the owner thereof? Did he get paid? Was it sold or leased or given to you? If gift, by whom? If sale, with what exchange or currency? If lease, do you make proper accounting? And then I asked, what was the price? With what treasures did you buy this farm? Money. Where did you get the money? My toil, my sweat, my labor, and my strength. And then I asked, where did you get your strength to toil, your power to labor, your glands to sweat? He spoke of food. Where did the food originate? From sun and atmosphere and soil and water. And who brought those elements here? I quoted the psalmist, "Thou, O God, didst send a plentiful rain. Thereby thou didst confirm thine inheritance when it was weary." If the land is not yours, then what accounting do you make to your landlord for his bounties? I said again, I seem to find no place in Holy Writ where God has said, "I give you title to this land unconditionally. It is now yours to give, to have, to hold, to sell, despoil, exploit, as you see fit." I cannot find such a scripture, but I do find this from Psalms. "Those that wait upon the Lord shall inherit the earth." And I remember that our Creator covenanted in the council in heaven with us all. We will go down, for there is space there, and we will take of these materials, and we will make an earth whereon these may dwell. It seems more of a lease on which a rental is exacted than of a fee simple title. President J. Reuben Clark Jr. stated, "The basic principle of all the revelations on the United Order is that everything we have belongs to the Lord. Therefore, the Lord may call upon us for any and all of the property which we have, because it belongs to Him. This, I repeat, is the basic principle." President Spencer W. Kimball explained, "In the church, a stewardship is a sacred spiritual or temporal trust for which there is accountability. Because all things belong to the Lord, we are stewards over our bodies, minds, families, and properties. A faithful steward is one who exercises righteous dominion, cares for his own, and looks to the poor and needy. These principles govern welfare services activities. May we all learn, obey, and teach these principles. Leaders, teach them to your members. Fathers, teach them to your families. Only as we apply these truths can we approach the ideal of Zion." Doctrine and Covenants 104, 15 through 16. "And it is my purpose to provide for my saints, for all things are mine. And it must needs be done in mine own way. And behold, this is the way that I, the Lord, have decreed to provide for my saints, that the poor shall be exalted, and that the rich are made low." President Marion G. Romney taught, "The Lord claims the earth as His, that it is not yours or mine to own and manage independently of Him. No matter how many stocks and bonds or how much land or other properties we possess, they are not wholly ours. They are the Lord's." He further says that He owns and gives to us all the blessings we have, and that He makes us stewards over them, responsible to Him. He makes it clear that it is His purpose to provide for His saints, but He requires that it be done in His way. Which way, He explains, is for those to have to contribute to those who have not. Having made us stewards, He gives us our agency, however, and then lays down the condition that if we accept these blessings and refuse to contribute or share for the care of the poor, we shall go to, well, He tells us where we shall go. The Lord intends to provide for His saints, but it must needs be done in His own way, rather than according to the ways of the world. The Lord revealed what His way is when He gave the saints the law of the gospel, which includes the law of consecration and the principles of stewardship and personal accountability. By consecrating or dedicating their time, talents, and material wealth to the establishment and building up of God's kingdom. Latter-day Saints fulfill their sacred stewardship to help care for one another, particularly the poor and needy. President Dieter F. Uchtdorf of the First Presidency taught about the Lord's way to care for the poor and needy. There are many good people and organizations in the world that are trying to meet the pressing needs of the poor and needy everywhere. We are grateful for this, but the Lord's way of caring for the needy is different from the world's way. The Lord has said, "It must needs be done in mine own way." He is not only interested in our immediate needs, He is also concerned about our eternal progression. For this reason, the Lord's way has always included self-reliance and service to our neighbor, in addition to caring for the poor. Elder Joseph P. Worthland explained how the poor are exalted and the rich are made low when church members provide for others in the Lord's way. The Lord's way consists of helping people help themselves. The poor are exalted because they work for the temporary assistance they receive. They are taught correct principles, and they are able to lift themselves from poverty to self-reliance. The rich are made low because they humble themselves to give generously of their means to those in need. Elder George Buchanan said, "I refer to what is known among us as the United Order. I know that many have thought that this has passed off, that it is a fantasy, an idea that cannot be carried out, that it is impossible, as human nature is constituted, to make it practical. Probably many among us entertain that idea, but I can assure you that this is not the case. It is the plan that God has devised, and I want to hold it up before you if I can, so that you will see it and understand that God has devised a plan that is far superior to that which men have concocted, and it can be and will be carried out. Elder Orson Pratt said, I am, and I presume a great many others who are acquainted with the revelations of God, as contained in the Doctrine and Covenants, are looking for the period of time to come in the history of the Latter-day Saints, when we as a people shall possess a very different country from the one we are now inhabiting. We expect just as much as we expect the sun will shine when it arises on a clear morning, that the Lord will by and by take us back to the land of Zion. No man in those localities will be permitted to receive a stewardship on those lands unless he is willing to consecrate all his properties to the Lord. That will be among the first teachings given. When this shall be done, the people will be, as the parable says, like unto one body, all equally poor, or all equally rich. In other words, they will be persons that can claim no property as their own, everything being consecrated. The properties they hold will not be their own, although it may be called so, as far as that is concerned. And when it shall be ascertained that an individual has consecrated everything he has, inquiries will be made as to the size of his family, and land will be apportioned to him accordingly, not to deed him the property according to the Gentile practice, but rather that the extent of his stewardship may be determined. President Joseph Fielding Smith said, through this divine law, there would come an equality, and in humility all would be made rich in the abundance that would be gathered into the storehouse of the Lord, and every man should be provided with an abundance. For the earth is full, and there is enough and to spare. Yea, I prepared all things, and have given unto the children of men to be agents unto themselves. The abundance of the earth is so plentiful, through the mercies of the Father, that all could have enough and to spare, if the commandments of the Lord were strictly kept. Gospel law governs the care of the poor. Doctrine and Covenants 104:17. For the earth is full, and there is enough and to spare. Yea, I prepared all things, and have given unto the children of men to be agents unto themselves. President Ezra Taft Benson explained, the precepts of men would have you believe that by limiting the population of the world, we can have peace and plenty. That is the doctrine of the devil. Small numbers do not ensure peace. Only righteousness does. After all, there were only a handful of men on the earth when Cain interrupted the peace of Adam's household by slaying Abel. On the other hand, the whole city of Enoch was peaceful, and it was taken into heaven because it was made up of righteous people. And so far as limiting the population in order to provide plenty is concerned, the Lord answered that falsehood in the Doctrine and Covenants when he said, for the earth is full, and there is enough, and to spare. Yea, I prepared all things, and have given unto the children of men to be agents unto themselves. A major reason why there is famine in some parts of the world is because evil men have used the vehicle of government to abridge the freedom that men need to produce abundantly. True to form, many of the people who desire to frustrate God's purposes of giving mortal tabernacles to his spirit children through worldwide birth control are the very same people who support the kinds of government that perpetuate famine. They advocate an evil to cure the results of the wickedness they support. Elder James E. Fowl said, I next address the present-day challenge to the words of the Lord recorded in Genesis. Be fruitful, and multiply and replenish the earth. All my life I have heard the argument that the earth is overpopulated. Much controversy surrounded a 1994 United Nations International Conference on Population and Development held in Cairo, Egypt. No doubt the conference accomplished much that was worthwhile, but at the very center of the debate was the socially acceptable phrase, sustainable growth. This concept is becoming increasingly popular. How cleverly Satan masked his evil designs with that phrase. Few voices in the developed nations cry out in the wilderness against this coined phrase, sustainable growth. In Forbes magazine, a thoughtful editorial asserts that people are an asset, not a liability. It forthrightly declares as preposterous the broadly accepted promise that curbing population growth is essential for economic development. This editorial then states convincingly, free people don't exhaust resources, they create them. An article in U.S. News and World Report entitled 10 billion for dinner, please, states that the earth is capable of producing food for a population of at least 80 billion, 8 times the 10 billion expected to inhabit the earth by the year 2050. One study estimates that with improved scientific methods, the earth could feed as many as 1,000 billion people. Those who argue for sustainable growth lack vision and faith. The Lord said, "The earth is full and there is enough and to spare." That settles the issue for me. It should settle the issue for all of us. The Lord has spoken. Some have suggested that the Earth's population will eventually exceed its resources. In the revelation recorded in Doctrine and Covenants 104, the Lord emphasized that there are plenty of resources in the earth for all of God's children. The problem is not limited resources. The problem is an unwillingness to share the earth's abundance with the poor and needy. In his law unto the church, the Lord commanded the saints to remember the poor and consecrate of their resources for their support. As recorded in Doctrine and Covenants 104:18, the Lord warned that if the saints did not impart their portion according to the law of his gospel unto the poor and the needy, they would with the wicked lift up their eyes in hell, being in torment. This has reference to Jesus Christ's parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Like the rich man in the parable, those who will not share their abundance with the poor will suffer the pains of hell in the world to come. Elder D. Todd Christofferson said, "As we pursue the cause of Zion, each of us should prayerfully consider whether we are doing what we should and all that we should in the Lord's eyes with respect to the poor and the needy." We might ask ourselves, living as many of us do in societies that worship possessions and pleasures, whether we are remaining aloof from covetousness and the lust to acquire more and more of this world's goods. Materialism is just one more manifestation of the idolatry and pride that characterize Babylon. Perhaps we can learn to be content with what is sufficient for our needs. Think about your efforts to help the poor and needy. What can you do to use what the Lord has given you to help those in need? Doctrine and Covenants 104:18. Therefore, if any man shall take of the abundance which I have made, and impart not his portion, according to the law of my gospel, unto the poor and the needy, he shall, with the wicked, lift up his eyes in hell, being in torment. Elder Marion G. Romney said, the revelation from which this is taken was given in this dispensation for our guidance. In light of it, do you think that this matter of taking care of the poor is one that we can disregard and still obtain the blessings of the Lord? Not at all. We obey it, or we pay the penalty. Matthew 25. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick and in a prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. The stewardships and blessings of various brethren are designated. Read Doctrine and Covenants 104, 19 through 46, looking for the stewardships the Lord assigned to members of the United Firm and a promise he gave to each of them. Smith and Shodall wrote, specific directions are here given for stewardships. Sidney Rigdon is given charge of the tannery. He had at one time been engaged in the very useful business of a tanner and was competent in this stewardship. Martin Harris, who was a successful farmer, is given charge of a piece of land. He was also to manage a publication business under the direction of the prophet. Oliver Cowdery and Frederick G. Williams are given charge of the printing office. John Johnson is to be a real estate agent. Newell K. Whitney is assigned to the mercantile establishment. Joseph Smith is given charge of the temple lot. He is also to take care of his father, for the Lord recognizes the duty of children to provide for their parents, as well as the duty of parents to care for their children. This revelation does not mention assigning properties to members of the firm living in Missouri, likely because the Saints had recently been expelled from Jackson County. The Lord directed that the firm's properties in Kirtland be divided and assigned to individual members, who became responsible for managing them, so that every man may give an account unto him of the stewardship which is appointed unto him. The Lord then made the same promise to each firm member mentioned in the Revelation. If they were faithful in their stewardships, the Lord would multiply blessings upon them. Similarly, if we are faithful in the stewardships the Lord gives us, He will multiply our blessings. Doctrine and Covenants 104, 19 through 46. And now verily I say unto you, concerning the properties of the order, let my servant Sidney Rigdon have appointed unto him the place where he now resides, and the lot of the tannery for his stewardship, for his support while he is laboring in my vineyard, even as I will, when I shall command him. And let all things be done according to the counsel of the order, and united consent and voice of the order, which dwell in the land of Kirtland. And this stewardship and blessing I the Lord confer upon my servant Sidney Rigdon, for a blessing upon him, and his seed after him. And I will multiply blessings upon him, inasmuch as he will be humble before me. And again let my servant Martin Harris have appointed unto him for his stewardship the lot of land which my servant John Johnson obtained in exchange for his former inheritance, for him and his seed after him. And inasmuch as he is faithful, I will multiply blessings upon him, and his seed after him. And let my servant Martin Harris devote his monies for the proclaiming of my words according as my servant Joseph Smith Jr. shall direct. And again let my servant Frederick G. Williams have the place upon which he now dwells. And let my servant Oliver Cowdery have the lot which is set off joining the house, which is to be for the printing office, which is lot number 1, and also the lot upon which his father resides. And let my servants Frederick G. Williams and Oliver Cowdery have the printing office, and all things that pertain unto it. And this shall be their stewardship, which shall be appointed unto them. And inasmuch as they are faithful, behold, I will bless, and multiply blessings upon them. And this is the beginning of the stewardship which I have appointed them, for them and their seed after them. And inasmuch as they are faithful, I will multiply blessings upon them, and their seed after them, even a multiplicity of blessings. And again let my servant John Johnson have the house in which he lives, and the inheritance, all save the ground which has been reserved for the building of my houses, which pertains to that inheritance, and those lots which have been named for my servant Oliver Cowdery. And inasmuch as he is faithful, I will multiply blessings upon him. And it is my will that he should sell the lots that are laid off for the building up of the city of my saints, inasmuch as it shall be made known to him by the voice of the Spirit, and according to the counsel of the order, and by the voice of the order. And this is the beginning of the stewardship which I have appointed unto him, for a blessing unto him and his seed after him. And inasmuch as he is faithful, I will multiply a multiplicity of blessings upon him. And again let my servant Newell K. Whitney have appointed unto him the houses and lot where he now resides, and the lot and building on which the mercantile establishment stands, and also the lot which is on the corner south of the mercantile establishment, and also the lot on which the ashery is situated. And all this I have appointed unto my servant Newell K. Whitney for his stewardship, for a blessing upon him and his seed after him, for the benefit of the mercantile establishment of the order which I have established for my stake in the land of Kirtland. Yea, verily, this is the stewardship which I have appointed unto my servant N. K. Whitney, even this whole mercantile establishment, him and his agent, and his seed after him. And inasmuch as he is faithful in keeping my commandments, which I have given unto him, I will multiply blessings upon him and his seed after him, even a multiplicity of blessings. And again let my servant Joseph Smith Jr. have appointed unto him the lot which is laid off for the building of my house, which is 40 rods long and 12 wide, and also the inheritance upon which his father now resides. And this is the beginning of the stewardship which I have appointed unto him, for a blessing upon him and upon his father. For behold, I have reserved an inheritance for his father, for his support. Therefore he shall be reckoned in the house of my servant Joseph Smith, Jr., and I will multiply blessings upon the house of my servant Joseph Smith, Jr., inasmuch as he is faithful, even a multiplicity of blessings. The United Order in Kirtland and the Order in Zion are to operate separately. Read Doctrine and Covenants 104, 47 through 53, looking for the Lord's instructions regarding the branches of the United Firm in Ohio and Missouri. Doctrine and Covenants 104, 47 through 52. And now a commandment I give unto you concerning Zion, that you shall no longer be bound as a united order to your brethren of Zion, only on this wise. After you are organized, you shall be called the United Order of the Stake of Zion, the city of Kirtland. And your brethren, after they are organized, shall be called the United Order of the city of Zion. And they shall be organized in their own names, and in their own name, and they shall do their business in their own name, and in their own names. And you shall do your business in your own name, and in your own names. And this I have commanded to be done for your salvation, and also for their salvation, in consequence of their being driven out, and that which is to come. The covenants being broken through transgression by covetousness and feigned words. The prophet Joseph Smith said, "The spirit of speculation in lands and property of all kinds, which was so prevalent throughout the whole nation, was taking deep root in the church. As the fruits of this spirit, evil surmisings, fault-finding, disunion, dissension, and apostasy followed in quick succession." Doctrine and Covenants 104, 53. Therefore, you are dissolved as a united order with your brethren, that you are not bound only up to this hour unto them, only on this wise, as I said, by loan, as shall be agreed by this order in council, as your circumstances will admit, and the voice of the council direct. Although members of the United Firm in Ohio had decided on April 10, 1834, to disband the firm, the revelation recorded in Doctrine and Covenants 104 instructed them to reorganize the firm and to separate the Ohio and Missouri branches so they could function independently. The Lord explained, "This I have commanded to be done for your salvation," likely referring to the firm members' financial salvation. However, rather than being reorganized, the United Firm effectively ceased to exist soon after this revelation was dictated, perhaps because leaders may have decided to transfer much of the responsibility of the church's temporal endeavors to their administrative bodies, such as the Kirtland High Council. President Joseph Fielding Smith explained that the distance was too great between Kirtland and Jackson County for unity of purpose in all things. Each order was to be organized in the names of the brethren residing in each place, and to do business in their own names. This separation and dissolving of the former order came about also because of transgression and covetousness on the part of some. They were to understand that all the properties were the Lord's, otherwise their faith was vain, and therefore they were stewards before the Lord. All of this was to be done for the purpose of building up the church and kingdom of God on the earth, and to prepare the people for the time when the Lord shall come to dwell upon the earth.